What is up, everyone? I'm Chris Cage, founder of Green Belly Meals. Today we're going to talk about ultralight backpacking, which is a more gear and weight conscious group of backpackers. Folks who have literally been known to weigh every item in their pack and tally it up on spreadsheets. Maybe use trekking poles for their tent poles, or possibly even shave off the handle of their toothbrush to save weight. Yes, indeed, these are ultralight backpackers. And we are going to discuss four main topics. What is ultralight backpacking? Where did it start? Why is it so popular? And where is it going? And a lot of people used to think that the bigger your trip, the more gear you needed, and that being over-equipped was a good thing, a sign of preparedness. Ultralight backpackers have preached the contrary, less is more being their classic war cry. Ultralight backpackers used to be a more extreme subset of the regular backpacking community. In my opinion, they have now effectively infiltrated the regular backpacking community though, and subsequently shifted the conversation and the priorities of backpackers as a whole. The need to keep gear and pack weight to a minimum has slowly started to become more and more self-evident. The weight of an item has been brought to the forefront of gear buying considerations. It seems like just about every gear manufacturer has slapped the ultralight label on just about everything they make. I want to explore what has happened here. Why the craze? Is it a trend or is it here to stay? Topic number one, what is ultralight backpacking? Let's start with a more textbook definition of ultralight backpacking from Wikipedia. Ultralight backpacking is a style of backpacking that emphasizes carrying the lightest and simplest gear safely possible for a given trip. Sounds like normal backpacking to me, you say. Yes, backpackers have always been weight conscious. Most are aware that it is not ideal to pack a stack of their favorite books, nor is it a good idea to pack a 5-pound cast iron skillet on a trip. However, I don't think hikers have always been quite as weight conscious as they are today. For us to really determine what might be and what might not be considered ultralight requires some numbers to quantify a standard. So how do we measure this? There is no governing body to determine what pack weight is considered to be ultralight. However, there are some generally accepted guidelines from the backpacking community. Let's go over some basic terms. There are three classifications for the gear you might bring on a trip: base weight, consumable weight, and worn weight. Base, fixed items that you'll always carry, like your backpack, your sleeping bag, shelter, stove, etc. Consumable, variable items like food and water that will inevitably fluctuate and change from day to day. Depending on who you're talking to, consumables can include other items like toothpaste and toilet paper and stove fuel. Worn items while hiking, like clothing and shoes that will not actually be in your pack. We could break these down further and really nerd out on what items should be in the base, consumable, and worn categories, but this should serve as a good overview. Because consumable items will vary so much from day to day, and because worn items won't actually be in your pack, the main thing backpackers look at is base weight. This helps keep a rough standard of measurement so hikers can compare apples to apples. Again, there is nothing official that distinguishes an ultralight pack from a regular pack. I'm sure some will disagree with me here. For a point of reference though, I'm going to take a stab at some rough numbers. I'll say a pack with a base weight between 8 and 15 pounds is going to be ultralight. Anything between 15 and 20 would be considered lightweight. Anything above 20 is going to be regular backpacking. And on the opposite end, I'd say anything under, say, 8 pounds is going to be freakishly hyperlight. Let's bring this full circle. For example, you might have a pack with a 14-pound base weight with 2 pounds of food per day for, say, a 5-day trip, and 4 pounds worn for a total pack weight of 28 pounds. How are people getting down to such small packs? Well, in general, I think there are 4 main methods to lighten your load. First is remove gear. This is about being very intentional with the items you choose to bring and prioritizing only those that are essential. So instead of packing 45 or 50 items, you may only bring 35 or 40 items. Second is to replace something. This would be maybe replacing a 2-pound sleeping pad for a 1-pound sleeping pad. The third way would be optimizing existing gear. This might mean stripping down a piece of gear, removing excess straps, or external pockets. And the fourth way is multi-use. This could be consolidating 2 gear items into 1 item. So instead of packing tent poles and trekking poles, you can use a shelter that is compatible with trekking poles to stand. So now those trekking poles serve 2 functions and you can leave the tent poles at home. Do it yourself. I can't discuss ultralight backpacking without at least a small mention about DIY or do it yourself. This group of hikers is known to tinker. They enjoy this just like any other hobby, and maybe even the challenge as to how light they can get their packs. And many of the things they want don't have enough demand to warrant a large manufacturer to make them. The classic example of this is the soda can stove. You can find some instructions online about how to make a really simple and lightweight stove out of a soda can. Virtually no gear item is off the table. I've seen homemade camp shoes, packs, shelters, ponchos, and on and on. Topic number 2, where did it start? I'm going to break this topic down into 2 more parts: old school minimalist ethos and new school gear lists. Old school minimalist ethos. Well, you could argue that this is nothing new. Prioritizing weight, or the lack thereof, has been a pillar of backpacking and outdoorsman ethos in general from the start. A popular camping and survival book called Woodcraft, published in 1888 by George Sears, outlined a lot of this early outdoorsman ideology. He says, "The temptation to buy this or that bit of indispensable camp kit has been too strong, and we have gone to the blessed woods handicapped with a load fit for a pack mule. This is not how to do it." Furthermore, go light, the lighter the better, so that you have the simplest material for health, comfort, and enjoyment. Wise words from the 1800s that are still very relevant today. Side note, this book is riddled with attacks on big and heavy gear items from way back in the day, for example, recommending moccasins instead of long-legged boots. Fascinating. Sears definitely takes jabs at consumerism as a whole, but more specifically, advises we should simplify what we carry, without, of course, compromising our safety nor enjoyment. Hey, that sounds a lot like our early definition of ultralight backpacking and minimalism in general. After all, one of the main appeals of backpacking is departing from our creature comforts. Living simply, being deprived of certain comforts helps us appreciate them. To me, being intentional about what you carry and mindful about your footprint are core beliefs of backpacking and being an outdoorsman. In my opinion, this laid the foundation for lightweight backpacking. Beyond gear weight, actually realizing what you need to live is not much. Hitting the trail with everything you need to live in your pack can feel liberating and remove a lot what might feel like distractions. New school gear lists. So these minimalist ethos were with us from the start, and guess what? Hiking turned into a big thing. As hiking evolved into a major recreational activity, so did the concept of the gear list. As journeys became more and more defined, i.e. a specific trail, so did their respective gear lists. Here's a gear list back from the summer of 1969. From a man named Andrew Geiger from his Appalachian Trail thru-hike, broken down item by item with weights, also his food caches and resupplies. He also has some interesting notes about saving weight, how he purchased a scale, he thought about going stoveless, lots of stuff we still talk about today. Pretty cool. So hikers were prioritizing weight from even the early days. However, I don't think this really became a thing, dare I say movement, until Ray Jardine published the PCT Hiker's Handbook in 1992. Which was a guide to thru-hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. I think this book helped solidify all those early minimalist ethos and apply them to the more contemporary long-distance hiking culture. In it, Jardine outlines, when we go backpacking, we tend to lug around as many impediments as possible. The usual intent is to reduce the hazards and ensure the comforts, but the astute distance hiker recognizes that the innumerable appurtenances are neither essential nor do they contribute to safety or well-being. On the contrary, by their mass they create an aura of general intolerability, and they retard the hiking process as well. Pretty strong words, Mr. Jardine. Overweight backpacks not only sap the strength, they tax the feet and ankles. They effectively steepen the hills and magnify the distances. This book went on to become a popular guide for that generation of Pacific Crest Trail thru-hikers. I think his advice helped plant the seed and shift some of the hikers' priorities to being much more weight-focused. Another hiker worth mentioning is Andrew Skirka, named Adventurer of the Year in 2007 by National Geographic. He's done some big backcountry adventures like the Great Western Loop and basically an entire circumnavigation of Alaska. He's been known for his ultralight ethos and, because of his reputation and credibility, has definitely influenced a lot of hikers. If lightweight backpacking could nominate a leader today, he'd probably be it. Anyway, hikers started to demand lighter gear. Manufacturers answered, and a sort of arms race developed. Some noteworthy advancements. External to internal pack frames. Some don't even have frames anymore or hip belts. Very light and packable inflatable sleeping pads. Boots to trail runners. Mess kits to single pots. Even lighter materials, canvas material to Dyneema or Cuban fiber and ripstop nylon. Clunky sleeping bags to minimalist down-filled quilts. Fast forward to today, there is a very active ultralight subreddit, entire blogs and threads dedicated to the endless pursuit of reducing pack weight. A lot of manufacturers are still chomping at the bit to shave ounces. Folks seem to be willing to spend a small fortune on their gear to save an extra ounce or two here and there on the newest technology. Topic number 3, why is it so popular? So we talked about what ultralight backpacking is and how it came to be. But why do people care about their pack weight so much? This sounds like some people might have gone to the extreme to save a couple ounces or have too much time on their hands, right? Yes and no. Big picture, weight definitely matters. I'll talk about some exceptions and other considerations later. For now though, let's discuss why to a certain degree keeping weight to a minimum matters. First, fuel efficiency. I feel like this is the main argument for going ultralight. In the same way that small cars are generally more efficient than big cars, a small pack will help you hike more efficiently than a big pack. And instead of burning fuel, this is you burning up your energy. If you're hiking long days for weeks or months at a time, too much energy depletion will take a huge toll. In short, the lighter your pack weight, the more efficient you will be getting up and down mountains. And the longer your trip, the more this efficiency will matter. Second, less likelihood of injury. This is about putting less stress on the engine. Carrying less weight should, in theory, help save your back and your knees. I'm also aware from a balancing point of view, I don't want a huge pack on a slippery river crossing or have those extra pounds pressing on me next time I roll my ankle. Third, organization. I personally would rather manage 30 necessary items than 50 unnecessary items. Final topic number 4, where is it going? So ultralight arrived and took a chunk of the backpacking world by storm. Is weight the only thing that matters though? Of course not. Lighter is definitely not always better. Everyone agrees that going too light can compromise safety and, as discussed, as safely possible is stated in the definition. Example, leaving the first aid kit at home to save a couple ounces is probably not the best idea. I think the devil is in the details and the degree of severity is what is in question. In my opinion, the real gray zone is knowing when and how to prioritize comfort. For example, I know some people that sleep with sleeping pads that only cover half of their body, just their torso. That might be fine for them, but for me, that compromises comfort way too much. I'm happy to carry the weight for a full body pad. I also like packing a book or a Kindle on my hikes. Certainly not an essential item. Note, even some serious long distance hikers really don't care that much. Some even take pride in packing their luxurious items and turn their noses at the seemingly fragile ultralight folks. In short, you should be mindful about the items you choose to pack and try to keep their weight to a minimum, but there is no right or wrong, just personal preference. It is good to understand your options so you can make more educated decisions about what works for you. Find your own sweet spot between comfort and enjoyment and keeping it as light as possible. Final thought here, also consider how much you are hiking, as in distance. That is a big, if not the biggest factor for determining how much you should prioritize weight. I.e., every ounce counts on a 6-month thru hike, but probably not so much if you're only backpacking once a year for a weekend. So, backpackers continue to demand lighter and lighter gear. Swarms of smaller cottage gear companies have popped up to meet the niche demands. And the bigger gear manufacturers have placed a lot of their innovation efforts into making their next model even lighter than the previous model, or lighter than the competition. It's great that the industry has heard the cries for lighter gear over the years. However, the question then becomes, where will this end? Will we get to a point where we're just carrying a packload of feather-like items, or will this level out? I think from a purely ounces and pounds point of view, it already has started to level out. Take backpack models, for example. Early external pack frames weighed about 5 pounds, if not more. Current lightweight backpack models weigh only a pound or 2. So how much more is there left to cut off? We're not going to get to 0-pound backpacks anytime soon, are we? Okay, after all of this, is ultralight a passing fad or the new way of doing things? I think it's a little bit of both. People are accepting that lighter is better to a point. I think outdoorsmen, especially long distance backpackers and thru hikers, will always place some level of emphasis on their gear weight and appreciate those early minimalist ethos. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.